What up, y'all? This DJ Illmatic coming at you live and direct, straight from my crib, USA. Daily Operation, Episode 6. About to chop it up with you once again about all the things going on in the gaming world today. Start off talking about all the games I enjoyed playing this week. Now, I finally finished up Assassin's Creed Rogue, and I can now definitively say, in my opinion, Assassin's Creed Rogue is the best storyline of all the Assassin's Creed games. I absolutely loved the story. I know a lot of you probably didn't check out Assassin's Creed Rogue because it was on the last gen systems, and I know a lot of people already made the jump to the new gen. And so, if and when it does come to PS4 and Xbox One, I encourage everyone to check out Assassin's Creed Rogue. If I would have played it to its completion before the end of the year, it probably would have been my third best game of the year. But I just absolutely love the story, especially if you've played Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and if you played the DLC Freedom's Cry, and if you played Assassin's Creed Unity. The story, it ties all the loose ends of all those stories all together. And so I absolutely love the story. Still love the gameplay. I missed some of the things from Unity, like I really love the improved climbing abilities and maneuverability and all in Unity. And so going back to the old way of Assassin's Creed and getting around the world, that I didn't care for too much. But other than that, I absolutely love Assassin's Creed Rogue, love the world, love the story it tells. Probably my second favorite Assassin's Creed game behind Assassin's Creed 3. So once again, if it does come to next gen, which I'll be honest with you, if it does come to next gen, I told you last week I wanted to go ahead and play through it so I wouldn't have an excuse to get the new gen version. That being said, I love the game so much that if it does come to next gen, I'll probably end up buying and playing through it again. That's how much I absolutely love the game. I also spent a lot of time playing Rogue Legacy, which you're checking out here. Of course, this is another one of the free games on PlayStation Plus this month, so I encourage you to check it out because, of course, the price is right. This is an absolutely addicting game. Now, you'll see on this video here, I was not doing too well the entire time of this video. I died a lot, but that's something you're going to do in Rogue Legacy. You're going to die an awful lot. But every time you die, you spend that gold you earn to upgrade your equipment, upgrade your stats, and eventually you get to a point where you make it just a little bit further, and so on and so forth until you are eventually. Well, I hope I haven't made it that far yet. I'm still in the early stages of dying a lot really early, but hopefully I'll get to a point where I've died enough and I've upgraded enough to where I can make it a little bit further, go through the process again, make it a little bit further. But I'm absolutely loving Rogue Legacy as well. It's a great game, so I encourage everyone to check it out. I also spent a little time yesterday playing through Sunset Overdrive. Now that's another game I bought at launch, played several hours of it, and then eventually just moved on to something else. Not to say there's anything wrong with Sunset Overdrive. It's absolutely an amazing game. I love the game. I just, with all the games that came out in October and November, I just got sidetracked. But I jumped back in yesterday. I probably plan on wrapping up a Sunset Overdrive this week, finish that game. But I love the story, well, not necessarily the story, but the world in Sunset Overdrive and fighting the monsters and all that. It's just a really fun game, and so I'm going to continue to check that out this week and hopefully finish up playing through that by the time I holler at y'all next week. Now, as far as what's going on in the gaming world, I want to start off hollering at y'all about all the commotion surrounding the Order 1886. Now, of course, this is a PS4 exclusive that's coming out this Friday, the 20th. And for those of you who were not aware of all the commotion that was stirred up on the internet over the weekend, lucky you because it was a bunch of nonsense. But long story short, basically what happened was an employee from PlayStation that got an early copy of the game and they beat it, and on their profile on PlayStation profile, PSN profile, I believe is the website, from the time they got there, from the timestamp on the first trophy to the timestamp on the last trophy, it took about 5 hours, and so everyone ran with the story that, oh my God, the Order 1886 is only 5 hours long. That's way too short. I'm not buying the game now. What a ripoff. This is going to be a terrible game because it's entirely too short. I think a day or two later, someone else who had the game actually released a video on YouTube and where they actually beat the game in 5 hours. But them beating the game in 5 hours was a speed run. They were just speeding through it, trying to beat the game as quick as possible. I've read other reports from other people that have the game and said that it took them playing through normally. I've seen anywhere from 8 up to 10 hours, and so that's probably the normal playthrough. But this entire argument was rather comical to me, and actually when I first started hearing this commotion raised by all these gamers and how the Order 1886 is going to be entirely too short, It reminded me of an old Bobby Womack song. Now, for those of you who don't know who Bobby Womack is, shame on you, but that's real music back when music was music. But Bobby Womack had a song called If You Think You're Lonely Now. At the beginning of the song, Bobby Womack's talking about his woman, and he says, she's always complaining about me never being at home. But when I'm there, I'm broke. And she's telling me about the things that her girlfriend's got, what she ain't got, and she want me to go out and get them for her. Well, girl, I can't be in two places at one time. And so this reminded me of gamers because just like the woman in Bobby Womack's song, gamers are never satisfied. It seems like nothing a developer or publisher can do ever makes gamers happy. 1 minute a game is too short. They complain about games being too long. They complain about too many sequels. They complain about a game not having a sequel. They complain about a game that has sequels not changing enough and relying on the same tired formula. But when the game does change something, they complain that they've changed too many things. And so gamers just can't be satisfied. But this whole discussion about the game being too short is really nonsense to me for two reasons. First of all, this idea, and it's not necessarily all gamers' fault, is it actually started with developers and publishers. Years ago, a publisher or developer had the idea to use the length of a game as a selling point. And I'm not sure what the game is, but on a game long ago, someone decided to put on the box that up to 20 hours or enjoy 20 hours of exciting gameplay or whatever it was. And so that became a selling point. And so this eventually evolved into the point we are now where gamers feel that there's a certain standard games live up to. And so if you're talking about a role-playing game or an open world game, most gamers agree that it needs to be at least 20 hours long, whereas a single player third person type of game needs to be at least about 8 to 10 hours long. Now, this is nonsense to me for a couple reasons. First of all, if you tell me that an RPG has to be $20, or excuse me, 20 hours long for it to be worth a $60 purchase, well, does that mean if the game is 40 hours long, you're willing to pay twice as much? Now, of course, the obvious answer is no. And so obviously, the length of a game is there's not a set formula for how long a game should be to be of value. The second reason that this whole this argument about the length of a game being important is nonsense to me is because the really great games, the amazing games, the games you have to play if you're a gamer, those games are always too short no matter how long they are. And so for instance, I'll give you two examples. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I absolutely love the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Played it on the 360, got all of the achievements, played through all of the DLC, spent a little over 200 hours in the world of Tamriel. And when I finally got to the end, when I had finally done every single mission, side mission, I had done everything there was to do in the world of the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, it was bittersweet because I felt a sense of accomplishment for going through everything in the world. But I was also sad because I wanted to spend more time there. And so even after 200 hours, for me, the game was too short because I wanted more. And that's what a great game does. It leaves you wanting more. The Last of Us. Now, to me, The Last of Us is an amazing game, perfect game. That being said, I loved the game, and when it came to an end, I loved the story, loved how it ended. But that being said, I was still sad that it ended. I was sad that my journey through that game had ended. And so I would have loved to have spent more time in the game. So once again, there's an example of a game being too short to me. So once again, an amazing game is always going to be too short. You're always going to want more. And so this idea that the length of a game somehow determines its value or worth is just foolish. Now, I can't sit here and tell you that anything about the order as far as if it is too short, too long, if it's a great game or not. I can tell you I will be there day one. I will cop it day one on Friday. I'm really intrigued by what I've seen so far. And so I'll holler at y'all next week about the game itself and let y'all know what I think on daily operation. Now, the last thing I want to holler at y'all about this week is a couple of news stories or changes coming out of Polygon and Eurogamer. Polygon announced last week that they're going to change how they review games. On some games, they're going to issue what's called a provisional review, and a provisional review basically just lets you know that there's more to the review to come. And so these games that rely a lot on the online capabilities or online functionality, they'll review the game as they know it now. If they get it early, they'll go ahead and review the game, get it a score, but they'll stamp it with a provisional review score. That score will not go to Metacritic. And then once they've spent time with it out in the world, out in the online, and see how the online functions, that score could then go up or down, and they will issue an official review score. And this is something that has been coming for a while. A lot of sites, IGN being one, they have started to not release reviews on release date because they want to make sure the game functions properly. I think everyone was burned by Battlefield 4 and the debacle that turned out to be, and so they don't want to get burned again. And so there's been a lot of delays now. So it's been several days up to a week after a game is released when a review score finally drops. And so this, to me, is Polygon's way of kind of meeting it in the middle. They're going to give you a score, but they're also going to let you know, hey, there's more to this score. Eurogamer itself decided to do away with review scores altogether. And I was almost completely on board with that move until I learned that instead they are going to have a one sentence summary basically of their opinion of the game. They're also going to have stamps for the game. And so basically, if a game is a must play, they'll stamp it that, or if a game is a void, they'll stamp that. And I believe there was one other, which I can't remember. I was with Eurogamer until they decided to summarize everything in a sentence. I can tell you that I absolutely I despise review scores, especially in reviewing games. I can tell you that I don't like reviewing games because anytime you review a game, at least for me, I'm constantly thinking in my head as I'm playing, okay, this is about an 8. And as I play through the game, that number may go up or down. But I write the review. After I've done the review, read it over, I'm finished with the review, then I have to sit down and decide exactly what score I want to give it. And I despise giving a game a number because so many people base their entire opinion of the game off a number. Regardless of how many great words you write, how much of an argument you give for the game being great or not good or whatever it is, all they look at is the score. And you can never encapsulate your entire opinion or your essence of the review in a score. You just can't. And so, for example, let's say a game gets a 7.5. You may have arrived at that 7.5 for various reasons. It could be a game that does everything really good, but doesn't do anything exceptionally, and so it gets a 7.5. Or it could be a game that does a lot of things amazing, but it has huge flaws that bring it down. And so these are two different things. And so, for example, I reviewed NBA 2K15 this year. I gave it a 7.5. And for those of you that read the review, I told you that it was an amazing game. The basketball itself was probably the best sports game ever made. That being said, there were huge flaws that brought that score down. There was nothing in that number 7.5 that tells you that. Now, it really bothers me that so many gamers just look at a score, that they don't bother to take the time to read reviews. They just go off a score. And that's what really bothers me about reviewing games, because I know that, and not to say that everyone in the world is quoting my scores but even the big sites, IGN, any reviewer knows that when people make arguments about the worth of a game or how good a game is or not is, they're basing this argument on some number you gave the game and not on anything you wrote about the game or your actual argument. And so this is why I do not like review scores. That being said, I also don't like Eurogamer's idea of just encapsulating the entire review in one sentence. I don't think you can ever encapsulate an entire review in one sentence. I don't know why it's so much trouble to ask someone, especially a consumer that apparently is so concerned about where they spend their money. They want to make sure they make a sound purchasing decision, but they won't take 5 minutes to read a review to decide if it's a sound purchasing decision or not. They're just going to look at a number and run with that number. And so it's going to be interesting to see how reviews change going forward. Like I said, consumers, they want the review the day of the game because they want to make sure they're making a smart decision. But websites, reviewers, they don't want to put a score out there and then have the game completely fall apart when it gets into the online world and make them look bad. And so it's going to be interesting as we go forward how reviews are going to change. But like I said, I, for one, cannot stand reviews, or at least review scores. I love reviewing games because I love giving my opinion, but I would want the person that I'm talking to actually listen to my entire opinion and not just ask me what number I gave it. But all right, y'all, that's all the time we got this week. DJ Illmatic, Daily Operation. Once again, check me out on YouTube, DJ_Illmatic. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Check me out on Twitch, DJ_Illmatic as well. Or holler at me on Twitter, DJ Illmatic23, no underscore, no space. Get at me on all three of those. I will get back to you. Once again, check us out, 8bitchimp.com for all that gaming flavor you savor. And shout out to my Organized Gamers family. Once again, this DJ Illmatic. And if you're not having fun playing games, you're doing it wrong, y'all. We out of here. One.